Hello dear students, welcome to Practically. We bring learning alive, and in today's session we are going to see 5 most important questions from the chapter How do organisms reproduce, which is from the biology section. So let's see these 5 questions. We are also going to discuss their answers. So do take a note of it, and we are discussing the 5 important questions for all the subjects of maths and science, that is physics, chemistry, maths and bio every day. So stay tuned with us and let's begin for today. Coming up with the first important question from this chapter. Leaves of bryophyllum fallen on the ground produce new plants, whereas the leaves of rose do not. Why? So this question is from the vegetative propagation property of asexual reproduction. Let's see what's the answer and how do you write it point-wise. We are going to see how to highlight the keywords, because keywords are the soul of the answer since the exam is subjective this time. So we need to, the first very important point which we need to write is that the bryophyllum is capable of reproducing asexually. So that is a part of asexual reproduction, and the buds are present at the leaf margins. As we all know, we have seen the diagram of bryophyllum, and these are capable of growing into new leaf or the entire new plant. Okay, and when they fall on the ground or in the moist soil, they can undergo vegetative propagation. Again, this word is the most important word in this answer, that they undergo vegetative propagation into a new plant which with adventitious roots, shoots and ultimately to a new plant. Okay, and leaves of roses do not show vegetative propagation or vegetative reproduction. Okay, so that's why leaves of rose cannot undergo that thing, whereas that of bryophyllum undergo. So in this way we have to differentiate between the properties of bryophyllum and rose, and the underlined words are the important points which has to appear, and around that you can frame your answer. Okay, so this was the first question. Now let's move on to the next question. What is the importance of DNA copying in reproduction? Explain with an example. Okay, so DNA copying is a very important step in the sexual reproduction. So why it is important? Let's see. Yeah, so this step occurs at the time of cell division, okay, or in particular during the replication of DNA, which is an important step in the reproduction, and it is important for transfer of genes of parents to the next species of same kind. This entire phrase is important. It is for transfer of genes from parents to next generation. So for that to happen, the process of DNA copying is important. Okay, yeah, and the continuity of existence is based on this factor. It is important. It is specifically important in the organisms that reproduce asexually. Again, this one point also we need to write, because we know that in asexual reproduction, the progenies produced are exact clones of the parents. So for them to be exact clone of the parents, the DNA should be copied as it is from the parents, and that's why this step is important. And only one parent is involved. Okay, so there is no other source of variation in DNA. Okay, so this line itself has some very important points, and then in the second part of the answer we need to give an example. For example, can give an example, like we are taking example of a species who wants to survive in a particular temperature, suitable water temperature, but due to the climatic changes, the change in water temperature, the species might die. Okay, but this will not happen if there is some change in the DNA replication, okay, present, and some identical species, but though they are similar, some individuals of this species of bacteria, due to little variation in the DNA, will be capable of surviving. So if there is little change in the DNA and that gets copied and continues further, so the next generation of that bacteria or that organism will be able to survive the warm temperature, and in this way they can the continuity of progeny will happen. So hence ensuring the continuity of species. And this is how variations are incorporated into DNA due to replications are important. And variation is a main basis of evolution. This is how the species got evolved, they got adapted, and the new characters which were introduced, the very important feature of evolution is that they need to be transferred in the next generation, because in this generation if there are changes and if they don't reflect in DNA and if they don't get copied, next generation wouldn't be a slightly different one. So these are the important points why the copying of DNA step is important. Okay, so this was our first second important question. Let's move on to the third one. What changes takes place in flower after fertilization? So yeah, this is very simple question. Fertilization of flower is a very hot topic, we can see for reproduction chapter. Always some or the other question related to it appears. So what are the changes which take in fertilization? So if this is a long answer, if this is a 3-mark question, you can give a short introduction or mention about what is fertilization, like just tell that fertilization is a process of fusion of male gamete and female gamete, very simple, to form a zygote. Okay, so this is like an additional thing. It's not that important to mention, because the main thing asked in the question is what changes takes place in the flower after fertilization. Okay, so only if this is a long answer, then only give the intro of fertilization. Next you can directly move on to the changes which will takes place after fertilization. Okay, so the main answer starts from here, that after fertilization takes place, the zygote divides and develops into an embryo. This is like the first important change which takes place after fertilization. Then next is every part of flower sheds off except ovary. Okay, so this is the second change you can remember, and ovary of flower develops into the fruit. Okay, third change, and ovules develop into seeds, fourth. And the formation of seed completes the process of reproduction in plants. So basically these are the 4 main changes which will take place. That is, zygote develops into an embryo, flower, the other parts of flower sheds off, ovary only remains, and that ovary develops into fruit and ovules into seed. As you can see in the diagram over here, what happens to the different parts after fertilization. And that seed which is having the embryo, once it germinates, then it will give birth to the new plant. Okay, so these are the changes which will take place after the fertilization. Let's move on to the next question. Okay, so here's a question. It's a little big question, but yeah, it will help us to practice and solve these type of questions. X and Y are 2 human beings. The organ A in the reproductive system of X releases a mature gamete B once a month, which goes to a tube-like structure C through a funnel-like opening. So basically, as you can see just by reading the question, it's a diagram-based question. You need not draw the diagram, but you need to remember the diagram of the reproductive system. The organ D in the reproductive system of Y makes and releases gametes E, which passes through a duct F and are introduced by an organ Y into the body X. B and E fuse together in C to form new cell G. The cell G divides repeatedly to form a ball of cells H, which gets embedded in lining of organ I of reproductive system X, where it grows and develops into a body. Name organ A and gamete B. Write 2 names of tube-like structure. Name organ D and gamete E. Write 2 names of duct F. Now in this question, so as I said, this is a diagram based question and the diagram should be in your memory. You need not draw the diagram here. We just need to recollect. Okay, we can clearly see that this is description of female reproductive system. That much we can clearly understand just by reading the question. So this is like kind of a little tricky question. Then we need to, you can draw it roughly somewhere on your paper of work, or you can just recollect in your mind, and whatever parts they have mentioned A, B, C, D, just start naming it in your mind, labeling it. Okay, and then you'll be easily able to answer this. Let's see the answer. So yeah, the organ A is ovary. Obviously the organ A, as it says, in reproductive system of X releases a mature gamete B once a month. This is the hint. Once a month, we know ovum is released once a month, and what releases ovum? Ovary. So that's why organ A is ovary. And the second part was gamete B. What is gamete B? releases a gamete B. So we know that is the ovum, egg or ovum. Okay, simple. Then next part was write names of tube-like structure. The tube-like structure C through which the ovum travels, that is oviduct or fallopian tube. Okay, both are the names of that place. So we know this as well. Then name organ D and gamete E. So what was D? So it said that the organ D in reproductive system of Y makes and releases gametes E, which passes through a duct F and are introduced by an organ Y. So this again, this statement shows that they are talking about male reproductive system, and male reproductive system which makes the gametes or release the gamete, that is testis, and gamete E has to be sperm. Okay, so very interesting question. You can practice this type of question. For that's why we need to know the diagrams well. Okay, moving on to the next question. Acha, sorry, last part of the answer. Write two names of duct F. F is the sperm duct or the vas deferens through which the sperms are carried. Moving on to the next question. Woman uses pills A as a method of birth control or preventing pregnancy. The pills A stop the ovaries from releasing ovum into oviducts. Another woman uses pills B as method of birth control. Pills B kill the sperms and prevent pregnancy. What do pills A contain? What is the common name of pills A? What do pills B contain? What is the common name of pills B? And what is the general name of these methods of birth control? Okay, let's see the answer. Yeah, so the birth control pills contains the female sex hormones mainly. So that's why we can simply write the pills A contains hormones, and the common name of pills A is oral pills. Those pills are taken orally to prevent pregnancy. The pills B contains spermicides which kill the sperms, and the common name of pills B is vaginal pills, and general name of these methods of birth control called chemical methods, because we are using pills and chemicals to prevent pregnancy. So this is the chemical method of prevention. Okay, so these were the 5 most important questions from the chapter how do organisms reproduce, and we are going to come up with 5 more most important questions from every chapter. So if you prepare this question, you will surely get an idea what type of questions can come. So stay tuned with us. We are also going to discuss sample papers for you to prepare well and score well in the upcoming exam. So thank you for watching. Subscribe to Practically and also download the app to get such amazing materials. Thank you.